my children, have you ever heard of the night when laughter entered the gods' grove? When three foolish boys of Umueze feasted on food not meant for mortal tongues. They thought it was hunger calling them, but it was the gods inviting them to their own reckoning. The moon smiles tonight, and even the crickets are eager for a tale. Sit, my child, sit, for the night is long and stories are plenty. You are welcome to Moonlight Tales of Africa, where even laughter carries a lesson. My children, let me tell you about the village of Umueze, a place where the rooster crowed before the sun even remembered to wake, and where laughter was as common as palm trees. It was in this lively village that there lived a boy named Tolu, son of Paofo, the famous palm wine tapper whose calabash never stayed empty. Tolu was a good boy, handsome in a careless way, strong from climbing trees and always smiling even when he had nothing in his pocket but air and hope. But his friends, His friends were another matter entirely. There was Obi, the loud one, whose mouth ran faster than his legs, and Chike, who believed he was the wisest man alive simply because he once beat a goat in a staring contest. Together, they were like three plantains in one fire. If one burns, all burn together. Every morning, after pretending to fetch water, they would gather beneath the big udala tree, slapping ayo seeds, arguing about who was born more handsome and disturbing anyone unlucky enough to pass by. See Tolu, Obi would shout, grinning from ear to ear. He's so broke that even mosquitoes refuse to bite him. They say there's no blood worth tasting. And Tolu, never one to lose, would fire back. At least I still have blood, Obi. Yours is palm wine mixed with lies. The villagers passing by would laugh, shaking their heads. They knew these boys too well. If trouble had children, it would name them Tolu, Obi, and Chike. Now, one sunny afternoon, after chasing goats from the yam barn, they sat eating roasted corn they borrowed from Mama Ifeoma's basket. Obi said between mouthfuls, "My brothers, I have discovered something about life." Chike rolled his eyes. "You discover? You can't even discover your missing sandals." Obi ignored him proudly. "Listen well, oh. The elders say, Onye buruchi yauzo, ogbagbu onweya. He who runs before his destiny will break his own leg. So that's why I don't rush to work. I'm waiting for my destiny to catch up." Tolu laughed so hard he almost choked on his corn. "Obi, your destiny has left you behind since market day. Even the tortoise has overtaken it." The laughter echoed across the village until Mama Ifeoma herself stormed out with a broom. "You useless boys, bring back my corn before I turn your heads into pestles." And off they ran, their whoppers flying, their laughter bouncing from hut to hut like drums of mischief. When they reached the stream, they collapsed by the water, panting and laughing until their stomachs hurt. "Obi," Tolu said, still catching his breath, "one day your mouth will bring you trouble." Obi grinned and said, "Trouble is my uncle. I even owe him palm wine." And Chike added, "If foolishness was money, you would have built a mansion by now." They all burst out laughing again, slapping their thighs, the sound mixing with the chirping of birds and the splash of the river. Umueze was alive that day, the kind of laughter that even ancestors smile from the land of the dead. But behind all the laughter, the elderly folks only sighed. Old Mama Wakaengo, the village storyteller, would shake her head and mutter, "He who plays with the market gods will one day dance naked in the square." And truly,
The boys did not know it yet, but the path they were walking, that careless, laughter-filled path, was leading them straight to the doorstep of the gods themselves. So, my children, that's how the story began. 3 boys with empty pockets, full mouths, and foolish courage. They called it friendship, but sometimes even laughter can lead a man into thunder. Ah, that night in Umueze, even the moon came out to gossip. It hung low over the palm trees, round and yellow, shining as if it too wanted to see what mischief those boys would get up to next. The air was cool, the frogs were singing, and the crickets beat their tiny drums. Tolu, Obi, and Chike were walking lazily along the narrow path that led past the Ofianzi, the sacred grove where even hunters feared to tread at night. They were supposed to be heading home, but as usual, their legs had no sense of direction. Obi whistled loudly and said, "My brothers, this night is too fine to waste sleeping. Even the spirits must be awake, enjoying themselves." And Chike, rubbing his empty stomach, muttered, "Let the spirits enjoy you, but if they leave any left over, I don't mind helping them clean up." And they laughed, not knowing that laughter sometimes is what leads a man to his own trouble. As they walked closer, the air changed. The wind grew thick. The forest suddenly quiet, too quiet. Even the leaves seemed to hold their breath. But in the distance, beneath a great iroko tree, a soft glow flickered, the light of a palm oil lamp. And before it stood a carved wooden idol, its face stern, its hands outstretched as if guarding the feast laid before it. There were 3 calabashes of palm wine, steaming bowls of fresh fufu, and a pot of goat meat still glistening with pepper soup oil. The smell was so strong that even the night spirits might have turned their heads. Obi's eyes widened. "Chike, my brother, do you smell what I'm smelling?" Chike's voice trembled with excitement. "Ah, if this is a dream, let no cock crow to wake me." Tolu, the quiet one, frowned. "Let us go home. This is Annie's offering, my grandmother said." But before he could finish, Obi interrupted with a grin. "Tolu, stop shaking like a yam leaf in the rain. The gods don't eat fufu. Do they even have mouths?" And Chike added wickedly, "Exactly. We are saving it from ants. We are helping the gods to maintain cleanliness." Tolu shook his head, but Obi put his arm around him, whispering, "Think about it, my brother. Goat meat with pepper, thick fufu, and palm wine that still foams like morning dew. The gods can wait till tomorrow." And Chike laughed so loud that even a sleeping lizard jumped. "Ah, if hunger is a sin, then I am the chief priest." Tolu hesitated, his grandmother's voice echoing in his mind. "When the gods are eating, even the wind keeps quiet." But hunger has a way of silencing wisdom. And so, with trembling hands, they crept closer. Obi took the first bite and, smacking his lips, whispered, "By my father's calabash, this is divine." Chike dived in next, tearing a piece of meat so big it could block the moon. "Ah, if this is what the gods have been hiding, then we have been foolish all our lives."
This is delicious.
Even Tolu, after one more weak protest, joined them. And soon the grove was full of laughter. Greedy, foolish laughter. They ate as if they were in a feast for kings. Obi poured the palm wine into his mouth, letting some drip down his chin. "May the gods bless us for our service," he joked, raising the calabash. Then suddenly, the night changed. A cold breeze blew, scattering the ashes of the lamp. The crickets stopped. The frogs fell silent. Even the trees seemed to bend inward. The boys froze. Chike swallowed hard. "Did you hear that?" Obi laughed nervously. "Hear what? Maybe the gods are clapping for us." But the light flickered again, and this time the carved idol seemed different. Its eyes gleamed red, as if the moonlight had moved inside them. Its shadow stretched long and twisted, touching their feet. Tolu's voice was barely a whisper. "Let us go." They stood up slowly, bellies full but hearts suddenly hollow. And as they turned to leave, the sound came. A faint hum, deep and rhythmic, like the earth itself breathing. The ground trembled beneath them, soft but sure. A whisper rose from the trees, the kind that didn't need words to be understood. Something had heard them. And so, laughing no more, the boys ran. Their footsteps crashed through the bush, hearts pounding, eyes wide open. Behind them, the sacred grove stood still, quiet as before. Only the wind moved, carrying their laughter away, as an offering the gods hadn't asked for. "Ah, my children, it is said that the mouth that eats what is not meant for it shall one day taste sand." But the boys of Umueze did not know this yet. They thought the night had ended, but no, it had only begun to watch them.
This one had a voice. It whistled through the palm fronds like someone calling names it should not know. The dogs barked and refused to stop. The goats kicked against their ropes. Even the moon hid its face behind a thin grey cloud, as if ashamed to look down. And in Paofor's compound, Tolu tossed and turned, his mind still restless from the feast of foolishness. He could still taste the pepper on his tongue, but it was not sweet anymore. Every time the wind passed, it whispered something that sounded like his name, Tolu. He sat up sharply, heart pounding. "Who is that?" Silence. Only the bamboo fence creaked softly as though answering him. He turned over again, pulling his raffia mat close, but the more he tried to close his eyes, the louder the whispers became. He heard laughter, faint, familiar and mocking. Obi's laughter, Chike's laughter. Then suddenly, the sound of drums, slow, steady, coming from the direction of the sacred grove. But there were no festivals in Umueze that night. No one beat drums when the gods were silent. Far away in Obi's compound, his mother woke up to the sound of something heavy falling to the ground. "Obi! Obi, my son!" she cried, running out with a palm oil lamp in her hand. She found him on the floor, trembling like a leaf in the harmattan. His eyes were wide open, staring at something she could not see. And his belly had begun to swell as if he had swallowed the moon itself. "Obi! Obi, talk to me!" But his boy's lips only moved faintly. His voice came out in a whisper, hoarse and dry. "Mama, the gods are eating." His mother screamed, her voice slicing through the night. Villagers rushed in with lanterns, their faces pale in the flickering light. Someone shouted, "Go and call the dibia. The boy has been touched by the spirit." Back in his hut, he could hear it all. The cry, the panic, the commotion. He knew, deep inside, that something had followed them home. Fear. Tolu tried to speak, but his tongue felt heavy, as if the air itself had thickened. She bent closer, and the scent of clay and incense filled the room. "Go to the grove at first light," she whispered, "and seek forgiveness before the sun tastes the earth. Or else you too shall feed the gods in another way." Then she vanished, not into smoke or shadow, but into the silence that follows truth. Tolu woke up drenched in sweat. The first cock had crowed. He stumbled out of his hut and ran to Obi's compound. There he saw the dibia shaking cowries on a wooden tray, chanting softly. Obi lay still, eyes half open, body cold. His swollen belly looked unnatural, as if something inside was growing, not dying. The dibia turned to the crowd and said, "This boy has offended the unseen ones.
He ate what was not his to eat. All eyes turned toward Tolu. But before anyone could speak, the old man's voice cut through the air again. May the gods forgive whoever joined him, for the earth remembers every crumb taken from its altar. Tolu's heart nearly stopped. He knew his name was already written among the guilty.
And so that night, the laughter of Umueze became whispers. The wind carried stories of fear, and the forest listened quietly. Some said they saw a shadow moving near the sacred grove again. Some swore they heard the sound of 3 boys laughing where no boy should be. Ah, my children, a feast can fill your stomach, but it can also empty your peace. For as the elders say, he who eats with the gods without washing his hands will one day shake hands with spirits. The sun rose slow that morning, as if it too feared to look upon Umueze. A strange quiet sat upon the village. Even the birds that usually quarreled over ripe pawpaw fruits kept their beaks shut. In the middle of the square, Obi's mother wept beside her son's still body. The dibia, old and bent like a dry plantain stem, rubbed chalk on his chest and muttered, "The gods have eaten their fill." Tolu stood among the crowd, trembling. His eyes were red, his hands shaking. Everywhere he turned, whispers followed him like shadows. He felt their stares, sharp, heavy, full of questions he could not answer. Chike stood beside him, his usually mischievous face now pale as ash. He whispered, "Tolu, this thing don't pass play oh." Tolu didn't reply. His heart was somewhere between guilt and fear. Then came the Dibia's voice, low but commanding. "The spirits have spoken. Whoever followed this boy to the grove must return there before the next moonrise, or the earth itself will claim him." The crowd gasped. Someone shouted, "They should confess." Another said, "If they ate with him, let them go and beg." Tolu could no longer stand it. He ran through the square, past the market, past the Gudala tree where they used to play Ayo. He didn't stop until he reached the stream that flowed towards the Ofianze, the sacred grove. The forest was not as he remembered it. The path that used to be clear was now lined with thick vines, and the air smelled of smoke and wet earth. Every step he took echoed like a drumbeat. He could feel the presence, heavy, watching, and yet somewhere deep inside, he knew he had to go. As he stepped into the clearing, the same wooden idol of Annie stood there, silent, proud, and alive in her stillness. The plates of sacrifice they had eaten from were gone, but the ground still shimmered faintly, as though the earth itself remembered. Tolu knelt down and pressed his forehead to the soil. "Great Mother Annie, forgive me, I was foolish. Hunger and laughter carried my sense away." He placed a calabash before the shrine, filled with yam porridge and palm oil, food his mother had cooked that morning without knowing why. He poured palm wine on the earth and waited. The wind rose slowly, like a sigh. Then came a voice, soft, distant, yet everywhere. "Child of man, the gods are patient, but not blind. Your laughter fed your belly, but it starved your soul. Do you now understand?" Tolu wept. "Yes, I understand." The voice continued, "Go and let your hands feed others where you once fed or what was not your own. The gods forgive the heart that bows before wisdom." The wind faded and the forest grew still again. As Tolu turned to leave, he had a rustle behind him. Chike emerged from the trees, panting, his eyes wild. "Tolu,
I followed you. My stomach, it has been rumbling since last night. Tolu grabbed his arm. Did you come to beg or to hide? Chike fell to his knees. To beg! I swear I no go ever near that grove again. But before Tolu could speak again, the ground beneath his knees cracked softly, just a small sound like a sigh. He gasped, clutching his belly. His face twisted, and he let out a cry so loud it scattered birds into the sky. Then, silence. The ground beneath him sealed again, calm as before. Tolu fell to his knees, shaking, tears streaming down his face. He knew then that not every forgiveness comes before consequence.
By the time he returned to the village, the people saw a different Tolu. The foolish laughter was gone. His eyes carried something deeper, the weight of what he had seen, and the mercy that had spared him. He began to help his father tap wine again, to mend roofs for widows, and to fetch firewood for elders. Some mocked him, saying he had become a saint overnight, but those who had wisdom said, "A man who has eaten the food of the gods and lived will never hunger for foolishness again." That night, as the moon climbed over Umueze, Tolu sat outside his hut, listening to the wind rustle through the trees. He smiled sadly and said, "Obi, Chike, wherever you are, may your souls find laughter again, the kind that does not cost peace." And somewhere beyond the hills, an owl hooted. The night breeze carried the sound of faint laughter, soft, distant, fading into the trees. For the elders say, "He who mocks the gods may live to tell the tale, but his laughter will never sound the same again." And that was how Tolu, son of Powerful, learned that not every feast fills the stomach. Some only feed the soul with wisdom. By the next moon, the story of Tolu and the foolish friends had spread across Umueze faster than Hamatan fire. Children whispered it while chasing goats, and mothers used it as warning. If you eat what the gods keep, you will dance when they drum. Tolu was no longer the careless boy who spent his days under the udala tree. His laughter had softened, and his eyes had learned to watch the world differently. At just 15 years, he carried the weight of men who had lived twice his years. He helped Powerful climb tall palm trees with the rope tied around his waist, cutting the sap that dripped sweet and white into calabashes. The wine foamed and smelled of earth and sunrise. And whenever his father said, "My son, this is man's work," Tolu smiled quietly and replied, "Papa, man's work begins when boys' laughter ends." The other children sometimes teased him. They'd shout, "Tolu the priest, Tolu the spirit boy," but he would only laugh softly, not the loud, careless laugh of before. This one came from a peaceful heart. When the village gathered for the next New Yam festival, Tolu carried his father's palm wine to the square. The air was filled with drums, roasted yam, and the sound of flutes. The elders told tales, and the young boys played wrestling games. But as the night deepened, the dibia approached him, his face painted white with chalk, his voice calm like dry leaves brushing together. "Tolu, the gods spared you not because your belly was stronger than your friends, but because your heart still listened when wisdom called." He handed the boy a small calabash filled with palm wine and said, "Let your laughter now be medicine, not mischief." Tolu bowed deeply, his chest tight with something like pride, or perhaps humility. But not all stories end with smiles. Some end with lessons carved on the soul. One evening, while climbing the palm tree, Tolu paused and looked towards the old Umueze forest. The sun was dipping behind the trees, painting the leaves gold. And for a moment, just one heartbeat, he thought he saw Obi and Chike beneath the iroko tree, laughing the way they used to. When he blinked, the forest was empty. He smiled sadly and said, "They are free now, and I am still learning."
Years later, when he became a man and took over his father's palm wine trade, people said the boy had grown into wisdom. He never let greed or foolishness near his heart again. And whenever he saw young boys sneaking around the shrine, he would shout, half laughing, half serious, "Hey, you children, don't go near the God's food, though. Even the wind won't help you if your stomach starts to drum." They will all burst into laughter, not knowing that he spoke from the memory of fear and mercy.
And so, the tale of Tolu and his foolish friends became one of the stories mothers told at moonlight. About 3 boys who played too close to the God's table, and one who lived to tell the tale. The elders say, the chicken that scratches the ground where the gods have walked will one day find what it cannot eat. And when they say it, they smile, because they remember the boy who once laughed at wisdom and later became the very man who carried it. That was how Tolu, son of Powerful, learned that true growing up is not in the length of your legs, but in the depth of your understanding. And that, my children, is why till this very day, no child in Umueze dares to touch the food of the gods, because the last ones who did left their laughter in the wind.